Starodavna kronika mehiškega kraljestva pravi: staro je novo. Davno preden sta nastala nebo in zemlja, je obstajal človek in življenje se je pojavilo že 4-krat.
Time evolves and comes to a place where it renews again. There is first a purification time, then there is renewal time. We are getting very close to this time now.
Peta vrata. Pred 5 milijardami let je planet Zemlja lebdel skozi vesolje kot mrtva krogla. Skoraj milijardo let je minilo, preden se je pojavilo življenje. Človeška civilizacija pa naj bi se glede na obstoječe znanstveno prepričanje razvila šele pred nekaj 100.000 leti. Toda koliko v resnici vemo o svoji daljni preteklosti? Einstein je nekoč dejal, da so srečanja s skrivnostmi izvor vse znanosti. Zatorej vstopimo v skrivnostni kozmos mitologije in poiščimo odgovore na nekaj največjih skrivnosti življenja. Od kod prihajamo in kam gremo? Legenda pravi, da so prvotni prebivalci Amerike preživeli visoko razvite civilizacije, ki jih je uničila svetovna povodenj. V Mehiki so našli stare napise, ki so opisovali, da je svet prizadela vrsta velikih nesreč. Ostale so stare ruševine, ki pričajo o visoko razviti kulturi, ki je izginila. Medtem ko miti zgodnejših kultur še danes živijo med redkimi še preostalimi izvirnimi Indijanci. Morda je čas, da prisluhnemo njihovim pripovedim.
We were told that we would see America come and go. And in a sense, America is dying from within because they forgot the instructions on how to live on Earth.
Here in Hollywood, anything more than a year ago is ancient history, and any more than a year from now is too far away to be relevant. Suddenly the world has become very connected. Now I can move from any part of it to any part of it in less than a day. I can pick up my phone and I can talk to anyone. I can look on the internet and look at what literally millions of people are doing all over the world. It's a very different kind of society we have now, and it's changing people.
Charles Lawrence je pred 25 leti opustil obetavno poklicno pot v New Yorku in se dal posvojiti stari indijanki iz plemena Hopi, Caroline Twanyama.
The elders here on Hopi, they had a vision that somewhere long time ago, call it past lives if you want to, that I had helped the Hopi, that I'd been kind of an outcast from my own tribe. In one way, I was at the peak of, or approaching the peak of a very fine place career-wise in New York City. My offices were in the Plaza Hotel. It's so funny, as we change perspectives of life. A lot of what I was doing before looks like it was just a skeleton dancing in the wind. You know, it had very little substance to it. In hindsight, I think, here I am, this orange picker kid from California, you know. How did this get to happen for me? I just had no sense that this was even in the dance card. You know, this was an offering for life.
Indijanska beseda Hopi pomeni mir. Legenda pravi, da so Hopi prvi prispeli v Ameriko, kjer so več rodov živeli kot nomadi, dokler se niso nazadnje naselili v današnji Arizoni in ustanovili vas Oriabi, najstarejšo naselbino v Združenih državah Amerike. Po legendi se je v tem kraju leta 1100 pojavil prerok Maršov in Hopijem dovolil, da se naselijo na sveti zemlji. Maršov jim je dejal, da so izvoljeno ljudstvo, in preden je zapustil svet, jim je izročil nekaj kamnitih plošč, na katerih sta bili znamenji in simboli opisani zgodovina in prihodnost človeštva. Hopiji so skoraj 1000 let hranili stare plošče, toda šele zdaj smo začeli spoznavati pomen starih zgodb in prerokb. Ljudje prvega sveta, imenovanega tok Pela, neskončni prostor, so bili 4 različnih barv in govorili so različne jezike, toda imeli so se za ljudi enega samega duha. Potem pa je prišel mednje Lavahija, govorec. Prepričal jih je, da so ljudje zaradi svoje barve kože različni. Ljudje so se začeli ločevati in se spopadati med seboj. Samo redki so še živeli po zakonih stvarstva. K tem je prišel stvarnikov nečak, Sotuhnang. Popeljal jih je k veliki gomili, kjer so živeli ljudje mravlje. Ko so bili vsi na varnem in so se naselili pri mravljah, je prišel od zgoraj in od spodaj ogenj, dokler ni bilo vse en sam element, ogenj, in ostalo ni nič, razen ljudi, ki so bili na varnem v maternici zemlje. To je bil konec tok Pela prvega sveta.
I think all cultures have had stories about the civilizations that they came from and the continuity, in a sense, with the past. I mean, that is, in some sense, what culture is continuity with the past. I think it's a relatively recent thing that we're obsessed with the present. I think so much has happened in our lifetimes that we tend to think of current events as being much more important than history.
In 91 years, you've seen a lot of things happen. I think that we are in one of the most critical turning points in the life of humanity. And I know that because it is so uncertain and we don't know the future, it's a time of anxiety for many people.
I don't think that people have a sense right now what story they're a part of. They sense that more that they're a part of a cataclysm.
If one reads the Bible, there are some people who still do. Then in the Bible there is an almost explicit promise. God made a promise that after the flood is not going again to destroy the whole world. So and that is a great, I would say, great relief. On the other hand, it doesn't say, and nobody is promising it, that we won't do it on our own. Now we have the technology. Now, the point is that atomic bombs are only one of the very many means that we people have in our disposal to destroy a world.
Everything is coming to a time where prophecy and man's inability to live on earth in a spiritual way will come to a crossroad of great problems. It's the Hopi belief, it's our belief that If you're not spiritually connected to the earth and understand the spiritual reality of how to live on earth, it's likely you will not make it.
Prihod belega človeka v Ameriko za Hopije ni bil presenečenje. Iz Maršavovih prerokb so vedeli, da bodo nekega dne na njihovo zemljo prišli ljudje bele polti, ki bodo nosili križ. Vedeli so tudi, da bo to zaznamovalo prehod v težavni čas ločevanja, nasilja, bolezni in krvavih vojn.
When Columbus came, that began what we term as the First World War. That was the true First World War when Columbus arrived. Because along with him came everybody from Europe. By the end of the Second World War, in America, we were only 800,000 from 60 million to 800,000. So we were almost exterminated here in America.
Leta 1881 je ameriška vlada ustanovila rezervat, ki je prvotno ozemlje Hopijev zmanjšal za 90%. Znova se je uresničila prerokba Hopijev. Hopiji so vedeli, da bo sledil dokončni poraz, če bo belcem uspelo spreobrniti njihove otroke in jih obrniti proti staršem. Toda ves odpor je bil zaman, kajti vlada je začela izobraževalni program, v okviru katerega so vzeli otroke staršem in jih pošiljali v internate daleč od doma.
Grandmother, like a lot of native children across the land here, was ripped out of her mother's arms at age 6. She was taken away. The U.S. soldiers came into these villages and without any concern to life or what they were doing, they just snatched children at any age. And they were thrown in boxcars, train cars. It was just a very educated form of genocide on one level that these teachers put these kids through. But Grandma didn't see her folks for 17 years. She didn't come back to Hopi.
Prisilno izobraževanje otrok Hopijev je počasi privedlo do notranjega razkola med tradicionalnimi Hopiji in bolj naprednimi. Leta 1906 je spor odkrito izbruhnil in tradicionaliste so izgnali iz Orjabja. Vse, kar so odnesli s seboj, so bile stare kamnite plošče s prerogbami. Tradicionalisti so se naselili blizu potoka, nedaleč od Orjabja in ustanovili svojo vas, Houtvilla. Slovesnim obredom so se zaobljubili, da bodo ohranjali stara izročila in, ko bo napočil primeren čas, prenesli Maršavove prerokbe in opozorila zunanjemu svetu. Caroline Twanjama, ki so jo med prisilnim šolanjem naučili govoriti popolno angleščino, je bila izbrana za predstavnico starešin plemena.
Grandma had a destiny to be a spokesperson. And she opened the doors for many, many Indian tribes around the earth to get their voice spoken in Geneva. I became a caretaker, a guardian during the travels of these elders. And then when I was traveling with Grandma, she would never leave here without sitting in council, and the elders would pray for days what was to be said out in the world. And when the time came that she got so sick she couldn't come anymore, we went through actually a legal adoption, not just a ceremonial adoption, because I had to have papers signed by Caroline Twanjama to say, this is my adopted son. I'm sending him here to speak on behalf of the traditional Hopi.
Po prvem uničenju so se preživeli pojavili v drugem svetu, imenovanem Tokpa, kar pomeni temna polnoč. Gradili so vasi in poti med njimi. Stvari so izdelovali z rokami in shranjevali hrano, kakor ljudje mravlje. Na tem drugem svetu je bilo vse, kar so potrebovali. Toda postali so pohlepni in so se začeli prepirati in pretepati. Potem so izbruhnile vojne med vasmi. In tako je Sotuknang spet poklical ljudi mravlje, da so odprli svoj svet za izbrane. Ko so bili na varnem pod zemljo, je Sotuknang ukazal svetima dvojčkoma, Pokvangahojaku in Palongvahojaku, naj zapustita svoje položaje na severu in jugu sveta. Ker zemlje nihče ni več nadzoroval, je zdrsnila iz ravnotežja in ko se je vrtela skozi hladno in neživo vesolje, je vse zamrznilo v trden led. To je bil konec Tokpaja, drugega sveta.
Now is an interesting time because we've really just gotten technology. And I mean just in the last 100 years or so, which is a moment of time, historically speaking. We actually have human artifacts that are 10,000 years old. They're pots, bits of baskets, things like that. So we know we can build things that last 10,000 years. The clock that I'm building is entirely mechanical. I actually have some faith that mechanical technology will be around for thousands of years, so people will be able to understand it and fix it. Whereas it may be that electronic technology, for instance, will just be a passing fad. We really don't know anything about how well electronics lasts over those time periods. One of the questions that comes up when you design a clock that lasts for 10,000 years is what do you use for the calendar system?
There are great differences in the calendrical systems of the various cultures on Earth. The Hebrew calendar is registering the year 5970 as of September 1999. They are approaching the so-called 7th millennium. The Chinese calendar is into the year 4650 something. They're within 40 years will be approaching their 5th millennium. The Islamic calendar only shows the year 1420.
One advantage that ancient cultures had over us is that they watch the stars all the time. If you don't have electric lighting, things like the phase of the moon become very important. There's good evidence that the Mayans got very good at predicting eclipses.
Maji so bili neverjetno napredni astronomi. Pred 1000 leti so znali izračunati krožnice planetov z natančnostjo, ki se lahko kosa z naprednimi sodobnimi izračuni.
It turns out that one of the only calendar systems which makes sense is the Mayan calendar system. An interesting thing is that that calendar, too, is about to come to the end of one of its very long cycles.
I think the biggest mystery with the Maya calendar is this 2012 date. In the Maya long count calendar, there is a large cycle of some 13 baktuns, which is a period of just over 5,000 years. And Maya scholars know that this great cycle of Maya time is due to end on December 21st of 2012. Why did the Maya pick 2012? Why did the Maya pick the December solstice of the year 2012 to end this vast cycle of time? The key to understanding is the astronomical fact that we are living in a time of rare astronomical alignment. This particular alignment that we're approaching happens once every 13,000 years. I think that we can understand these galactic dynamics by looking closely at the Vedic cosmology. And their insight is that 13,000 years ago was the Golden Age, And then we start moving through a period of yugas, or world ages, descending from the Golden Age through the Silver Age to the Bronze Age. We are now in the Iron Age, the darkest age, Kali Yuga. We have been moving further and further into darker epochs, and consciousness has been losing itself into materialism and darkness.
We are living in the worst of all possible worlds, in which there is still hope.
The good news is that we are just about to turn the corner. The galactic alignment of 2012 is the end of descending Kali Yuga, and we will turn the corner to begin the ascent phase towards the next golden age.
A human being is something that is unique in that it has its legs on earth, but it has a head that at least can look at heaven.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا
There is a period of time in schools in which boys and girls are fighting each other and cannot stand each other. After some time, at least they stop doing it. See, they become interested. Now that is a change of phase. I mean, you are moving from one phase to another. Now, for groups of people, not for individuals, for group of people, to make these changes is a much longer period.
We're still in the religious struggles of human consciousness, but slowly moving towards the age of Aquarius in a so-called vacuum or change over from the influence of Pisces, which is basically religious. In the religion, you cannot have religion without devotee. Most people are not interested in understanding religion, they're interested in devoting themselves to religion.
We listen so little, you know, and what we hear, we misinterpret. The wars that are going on now are religious wars, really. We don't all have to believe the same thing, but somehow we have to come to an affirmation of each other's belief system. And I think that's one of the things that will begin to emerge.
I was passing yesterday to a newly cut road. So it was bare rock about 5 years ago when they cut it. Now I see that in the cracks of the rock, plants are beginning to grow. Nobody put them there, but there were seeds flying all over, and some of them finds the most minute crack, and they begin to flourish. So in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, you will see the green wall where there was a bare rock.
spiritual. Everything has a spirit. Everything was brought to you by the Creator, the one Creator. Some people call him God, some people call him Buddha, some people call him Allah, some people call him other names. We call him Tonkashila, grandfather. We're here on Earth only a few winters. Then we go to the spirit world. The spirit world is more real than most of us believe. The spirit world is everything.
The name of the third world was
Ime
Kuskusha,
tretjega sveta je
lost
bilo
forever.
Kuskurša,
Once again,
za vselej
people
izgubljen.
spread out. They grew,
Ponovno so se
multiplied,
ljudje razširili
big cities,
naokrog,
created
razmnožili so
powerful
se v
nations.
tolikšnem številu, da so postavili
They
velika
began
mesta
to
in
use their
mogočne
creative
države.
powers in destructive ways.
Potem pa so začeli uporabljati svoje ustvarjalne sile na uničevalen in zloben način. Zgradili so patovoto, čarobni ščit iz razpete kože in z njim poleteli v zrak. Patovote so uporabljali kot orožje in z njimi napadali drug drugega. Nekaj je bilo treba narediti. Sotoknank je zdaj ljudem naročil, naj posekajo nekaj visokih rastlin z votlim steblom, zlezejo vanje in jih za seboj zatesnijo. Potem je na zemljo spustil povoden. Valovi višji od gora so se kotalili po zemlji, celine so se raztrgale in potonile pod morji. Nazadnje se nič več ni premikalo. Ko so ljudje odtesnili svoje zavetja, so bili na majhnem koščku kopna na vrhu najvišje gore. Povsod drugod, do kamor jim je segal pogled, pa je bila voda. Na dnu morja so počivala ponosna mesta. Zlo človeka je uničilo posvetne zaklade. To je bil konec tretjega sveta. Zgodba o vesoljnem potopu je verjetno med najbolj razširjenimi pripovedmi v starih mitih. Iz Svetega pisma poznamo zgodbo o pobožnem Noetu, ki je preživel potop, ker je bil pravočasno posvarjen in si je lahko zgradil barko. Podobne zgodbe se pojavljajo skoraj v vseh svetovnih religijah. Za čuda celo med osamljenimi plemenskimi ljudstvi na povsem odročnih koncih sveta. Verjetno se je nekaj podobnega vesoljnemu potopu res zgodilo. Vzorci z Grenlandije kažejo, da je pred približno 9500 leti prišlo do nenadne stalitve ledenega pokrova. Če je po svetu res divjala povodenj in so velika območja zalili oceani, je to gotovo odmevalo tudi v starih mitih.
Well, the Maya have a flood myth as well. It was the end of the previous world age was destroyed by Huracan, heart of heaven. It's a very interesting story that strangely speaks to our own dilemma today. Human beings alive during that world age, they had various utensils, but they did not give thanks for everything that they had. So their tools rose up against them and destroyed them. And then Huracan sent the flood over the earth to wipe it clean so we could begin again.
Ko so v 19. stoletju prvi antropologi obiskali Houtvilo, so bili osupli nad bogato mitologijo Hopijev. Njihove prerokbe o prihodnosti pa so se jim zdele vendarle preveč neverjetne. Bile so preveč fantastične, da bi se lahko uresničile. Govorile so o cestah na nebu, o premikajočih se železnih hišah, o kočijah brez konj.
Man will have the
O tem, da
ability
bo
to
človek
speak
lahko
through
govoril
space.
skozi vesolje.
The sacred body of the
Sveto
female
telo
will be
ženske
devalued,
bo razvrednoteno, kar simbolizira, da se bodo številne stvari odtujile od svojih izvornih vrednot.
Why did the white man create all of these things? They make all of these trucks, cars, airplanes. We were warned not to have those, no conveniences.
Leta 1998 je dan Enehema, zadnji od starih hopijev, ki so jih izobčili iz orjavija, umrl star 107 let. Danes se le še peščica hopijev drži starih izročil in poskuša obvarovati Houtevilo pred razvojem, pred katerim jih svarijo Maršavove prerokbe. Bojijo se, da bo svet doletela še ena katastrofa, če se bo še zadnji hopi vdal načinu življenja belega človeka.
The issue is that Houtevilo, in the mind of its foundation, is a shrine. It's a sacred place where the people live in loving concert with the earth. Their lives were meant to be lived in that simple way. They treated the earth in a good way. They treated each other in a good way. That was the very foundation and substance of Houtevilo. When the government, the tribal council began to push through these so-called improvements of electricity and water, they did not want that. The old people wanted Houtevilo to be left as this sacred shrine.
Manuel Mononga je sklenil hraniti zapuščino svojih ponosnih prednikov. Vrnil se je k tradicionalnemu načinu življenja hopijev, ki ga prenaša tudi na svoje otroke v upanju, da bo tako preprečil vsaj za nekaj časa veliko katastrofo, ki po njegovem grozi vsem nam.
I decided to give up my truck and I quit my job too because I believe in him. And now I'm into building a stone house and it's almost completed. So I can live simple life. I feel sad for the world. There's a lot of people in the world that's gonna get hurt. But they won't listen to me. So things are getting worse out there.
Under these mountains, they're just beds of coal. And this coal is being sluiced with millions of year-old aquifer under the land here. That coal gets sluiced over to Las Vegas, and which is a city that to me is a hallucinogenic nightmare because it's in an unnatural place, it's in a desert, consuming enormous amounts of energy, wasting water, a very, very vital resource of the earth that is diminishing. And it's a place to just go hallucinate.
over 95% of our body is water. And in order to stay healthy, you've got to drink good water. When the European first came here, Columbus, we could drink out of any river. If the Europeans had lived the Indian way when they came, we'd still be drinking out of water because the water is sacred. The air is sacred. Our DNA is made of the same DNA as the tree. The tree breathes what we exhale. When the tree exhales, we need what the tree exhales. So we have a common destiny with the tree. We are all from the earth. And when the earth, the water, the atmosphere is corrupted, then it will create its own reaction. Mother is reacting. In the Hopi prophecy, they say the storms and floods will become greater.
Well, I think the hurricanes and the earthquakes and the volcanic action is part of the reaction of the earth. Wherever there is a disaster, there is a congregation of people from all over the world who come to help. I understand the Turkish people were astounded at all the people that descended on them to help at that time. They bring people together.
To me, it's not a negative thing to know that there will be great changes. It's not negative. It's evolution. When you look at it as evolution, it's time. Nothing stays the same.
Odkar je Darwin napisal Izvor vrst, je znanost prepričana, da se je človek razvil iz opic.
We always say, that might be your ancestor, but it's not our ancestor. He is a relative, but not our ancestor.
Medtem ko arheologi še vedno iščejo manjkajoči člen med opico in človekom, so prišli do fantastičnih odkritij, ki kažejo, da so človeška bitja živela na Zemlji že pred milijoni let. V Laetoliju v severni Tanzaniji so odkrili stare fosile človeških stopinj. V Nevadi pa so našli 213 milijonov let stare fosilne ostanke sandala. Najstarejša in najnenavadnejša najdba je več kot 5 milijonov let star fosiliziran odtis modernega čevlja. Ta odkritja je težko razložiti, zato morda vendarle drži, da so razumna bitja hodila po svetu že milijone let pred nami.
If we look at the evolution of civilization throughout the millenniums, the billions of years, our present civilization is called the fifth root race. There is a very strange name attached to it, which unfortunately was perverted by the Nazis. It is called the Aryan race. The race before it, the fourth root race, was called the race of Atlantis.
Številne knjige in članki opisujejo legendarno celino Atlantido. Platon je pisal, da je bila celina večja od Azije in Libije skupaj, ni pa razkril, kje je otok ležal. Po legendi so Atlantido poseljevali visoko razviti ljudje, ki so uporabljali napredno tehnologijo. Toda pohlep po materialnih dobrinah je postal njihova poguba. Po gigantskem potresu je Atlantida potonila v ocean in le peščica preživelih se je rešila na druge celine.
I firmly believe there was the civilization of Atlantis with telepathic powers, with connection to space travel, life in other galaxies and other planets.
Če so preživeli z Atlantide, postali ustanovitelji kultur starega Egipta, Grčije in Amerike, lahko morda dobimo vpogled v poznavanje astrologije in matematike s proučevanjem skrivnostnih piramid v Egiptu in Mehiki.
Maya epigraphers, those who decipher the Maya hieroglyphic language, are now able to read about 70% of the hieroglyphs, and it's telling us a great deal about Maya culture. Just their architectural achievements alone indicate that they were very sophisticated in terms of engineering huge blocks of stone into place in order for these very subtle astronomical alignments to take place. There is an unknown aspect to that alignment, and it indicates that the Pyramid of Kukulkan is a type of precessional star clock.
2x po 92 stopnic Kukulkanove piramide predstavlja število dni med pomladnim in jesenskim enakonočjem ter tako označuje čas v letu, ko sta dan in noč enako dolga. Ob vsakem enakonočju lahko opazujemo poseben pojav. Ko se sončni žarki dotaknejo vrha piramide, nastane kača svetlobe, ki si utre pot po piramidi navzdol do tal, kjer se ustavi na kamnu, izklesanem v podobi kačje glave.
The ancient Egyptians and the ancient Vedic cosmology and many other native indigenous belief systems seem to have understood and prophesied about the times when these alignments would be taking place. And many traditions understand precession, including the Western astrological tradition, in which we are approaching the dawning of the age of Aquarius. They understand this large cycle as a type of collective human gestation. We are approaching the birth moment in that great cycle of gestation.
Humanity will be forced through a gate. We talk about free will, but what free will do we have? We can either go with the process or we can rebel. That's all. Inevitably, we'll have to go with it anyway.
It's not surprising to me that the stories of transformation of the world, renewal of the world, cataclysm, things like that, are becoming more important in every culture. Those stories were always there, but because of the time that we're in, those stories are becoming important to everybody in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been otherwise.
We are the anthropologists constantly studying the white man, the European. If they could see themselves through our eyes, they would see the ridiculous sides, they would see the futile sides, they would see the mistakes. There is a great conflict building up. Power! 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 International security is a big problem because everybody has a nuclear bomb.
Med prerogbami Hopijev je tudi opozorilo pred skrivnostno kupo pepela, ki se bo s strahotnimi posledicami izpraznila na svet. Ko se bo to zgodilo, morajo Hopiji opraviti nalogo, ki jo jim je naložil Maršal pred 900 leti.
when the atomic bomb was dropped. They knew it was time. They had to come forth because forces of evil and destruction were being unleashed upon the earth.
Po eksplozijah atomskih bomb nad Hirošimo in Nagasakijem so starešine Hopijev izbrali 4 predstavnike, ki naj bi po prerokbi prenesli opozorilo možu v beli hiši. Prerokbe so govorile tudi o stekleni hiši, ki da jo bodo zgradili na vzhodnji obali Amerike, kjer se bodo sestali predstavniki vseh narodov sveta, da bi reševali težave sveta, in tja naj bi odšli, če jih mož v beli hiši ne bo hotel poslušati.
Now in the prophecies, they were told they would go 4 times to the man in the White House. And if he turned you away, did not invite you into his house, then you would have to go to the house of Micah. And there are different interpretations how they described that. But who knew hundreds of years ago there was going to be a UN?
44 let je minilo, preden so Hopijem po zaslugi Charlesa Lawrencea nazadnje le odprli vrata OZN.
We just called the wife of Boutros Boutros-Ghali, who was then the head of the UN, and it was that moment of the window being open that we got on the calendar.
Thomas Benjaka je bil edini od prvotno izbrane 4-članske delegacije, ki je živel dovolj dolgo, da je dočakal ta veliki dan. Ker naj bi bili po prerokbi v delegaciji 4 člani, je Thomas Benjaka izbral 3 nove, med njimi je bil tudi Manuel Monunga.
In 1992, we went there and we give our Hopi prophecy, Hopi message over there that was the last warning. If we don't stop these things, then the world will get out of balance.
But very, very few people showed up to witness. Very few countries were represented. And on one hand, it was a shame, but they got in and they stood in that place and told their story.
We give them 4 days, 4 months, 4 years to come and investigate. But it didn't happen. They didn't come.
The wind never stops out here, you know? And the desert sand never stops blowing. But what happens down the road when there is no water? What happens when these things begin to happen? They're all predicted, and the signs are there. What then?
Prehod v prihodnji 5. svet se je že začel. Opravljajo ga ponižni ljudje majhnih narodov in rasnih manjšin. Lahko pa ga razberemo tudi iz zemlje same. Rastlinske vrste iz prejšnjih svetov začenjajo poganjati semen. Tisti, ki ne sodelujejo pri ustvarjanju svetovnih ideoloških ločnic, so pripravljeni prevzeti življenje v prihodnjem svetu. Ne glede na raso so vsi eno. Ta čas ni več daleč. Napočil bo, ko bo Sakusušu Kačina zaplesal na trgu in predstavljal modro zvezdo, ki se bo kmalu pojavila.
I think we can be of great help in this crisis. Awareness is so important, and the awareness that this is a crisis, but and a turning point, a shift, but also a tremendous opportunity that we're entering an entirely new cycle, and all that we can take into it is the best of the old and let the rest of it go. I'm very optimistic and enthusiastic about what will come. I think things will be very much different, but I know that we can handle it. We can all handle it because we have to. That's my feeling.
I think people will pretty soon start making a mental shift. They'll stop feeling like they're at the end of something and start feeling like they're at the beginning of something. And that's what I want to be a part of.
You should learn how to plant something. That's the first connection. You should treat all things as spirit. Realize that we are one family. It's never something like the end. Just like life, there is no end to life.
Prevod Niki Neubauer. Zvokovna obdelava Marjan Drobnič. Brala Maja Šumej.